Good morning. Welcome. We're glad everybody is here this morning. Excited to learn some things. My name is Deanne Hunt, and I'm president of the Arkansas Down Syndrome Association. We are celebrating our 20th year anniversary this year. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and our vision is that people with Down syndrome live a healthy, engaged, and productive life. I want to do a couple of housekeeping things. In your yellow bags, you have two sheets. One is a conference survey, and one is a household survey. This information we're collecting in hopes that we will qualify for some other grants to keep producing things. That's Mom. I always let her calls come through, sorry. So it won't be shared with anybody. Don't sign your name to it. Don't give any information that says who you are. Just what's written on the questions. You've seen our coffee and water and snacks. There are restrooms out past the registration tables and then out this exit door if you're looking for some other restrooms. At the end of the conference, please hang around in here. We're going to draw for door prizes. We have 4 $50 Amazon gift cards to give away, but you must be present to win. And make sure when you, before you leave, that you turn in your 2 sheets for us. So, anyway, thank you for coming, and I'll let Courtney have it now.
Okay. Yes, good morning. Loud. So glad you're here. I know a lot of you have driven in. Where's our family from Alma? Drove in 2 hours. Thank you for being here. That's a testament. We know it's needed. I have a 17-year-old son who was born with a chromosome deletion and has an autism diagnosis. I know that James and Deanne have a son with Down syndrome, so we're in good company. A lot of the resources that we have learned through the years have come from fellow parents and sharing. And so our hope, my day job is I'm the executive director of Community Connections, and we are a nonprofit that offers free sports, arts, and family activities for kids with a wide range of intellectual and developmental disabilities. So we have programs: football, soccer, basketball, tennis, theater, swim, martial arts, lots of programs going. They're free of charge. And we have a teen game group and a young adult social group. So I know that you're probably here that you have maybe an older child, a teenager or a young adult, and would love for you to get connected. We have a booth out, as does the Arkansas Down Syndrome Association. But we are very excited. The vendor fair, we have really a cream of the crop group. We have had folks that have come from as far as Branson to be here. We did were any of you at the transition workshop 2 years ago? Okay, we did one at Access Schools 2 years ago, and it was so helpful. There were groups that served individuals with disabilities that I did not even know about prior to 2 years ago that we have gotten involved in. One was Camp Barnabas and their college program after or post-secondary opportunities. So we hope that you will spend time visiting the vendors, and we thank our speakers who have given up time on their Saturday mornings to come. But this is laid back, so come and introduce yourselves to fellow parents. We're glad you're here, and I think that James Edward Hunt is going to come and introduce our first speaker.
I do want to also say, if you need to look up any of the resources that are here today, they're all listed on the Arkansas Down Syndrome Association website, ardownsyndrome.org. So.
Hi, I'm James Hunt. I'm Deanne Hunt's assistant full-time secretary general flunky. That's why I'm here today. I'm going to introduce the speakers. I'm not sure why they chose me to do this, but the first speaker is going to be Mr. Justin Elrod, who is founder of the Elrod firm here in Arkansas, an Arkansas estate planning and elder law practice that has been serving Arkansans for over 20 years. Mr. Elrod is one of only 4 certified elder law attorneys in Arkansas as certified by the National Elder Law Foundation, and he serves on the foundation's National Board of Directors. He is also an accredited attorney with the Department of Veterans Affairs and an adjunct professor of law at the University of Arkansas at Little Rock William H. Bowen School of Law. What began in his hometown of Bryant has now grown to a statewide presence with physical locations in Bryant, Hot Springs, Fayetteville, and Bentonville, serving clients from every corner of the state. His practice focuses on estate planning for clients of all ages, asset protection planning for those worried about the future need for long-term care, and emergency planning for families facing an immediate need for long-term care. Mr. Elrod is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, You Need a Plan. He hosts the Plan and Protect podcast, and he is a recurring contributor to magazines and newspapers across our state. He regularly speaks to groups large and small on the importance of estate planning and long-term care, and he's going to speak today primarily around the category of guardianship for our loved ones. Mr. Elrod.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I do teach a law school class on these topics, and when I was asked to speak and I knew what you guys wanted to hear about, I thought, well, this would be about 6 hours of classroom time through the course of a semester, but I know we only have half that, but if we're diligent, we can get through it. Just kidding. I know we have 20 minutes, so we don't have that much time, but there's still plenty of time to share with you guys some pretty key topics that should be important to your family. That's just going to be food for thought. It's not going to be every detail you're ever going to need, but maybe plant some seeds in your mind about things you ought to look into. So I don't know. I just heard that a lot of you guys have come from a distance. I don't know how many of you guys are actually from here locally or have connections to fellowship, but around this church, actually, I'm more well known as Jay's dad than I am Justin. I have a son. His name is Jay. He just turned 18. He's an intern in the student ministry here, and he's a musician. He plays on the worship team and all the different services. And so there's a story that I get a little bit made fun of that played out a few months ago, and that is he turned 18, and it was the middle of the week. So, all you guys have birthdays in the middle of the week. You don't get to have a big party till the weekend. You got to do something, though. So we had a nice little dinner, and we had cake, and as soon as we blew out the candles, I disappeared for a minute. Nobody knew where I went. I had gone back to my room, to my work bag, and I pulled out some papers. I had drafted up power of attorney papers for him to sign. And so on his 18th birthday, right after we blew out the birthday candles, I said, okay, next, I got some things for you to sign. And I just tell you that to explain to you guys how important I think this conversation is, that when you have a kid, for their first 18 years of their life, you have all the legal authority you need to help them with healthcare decisions, or really to make their healthcare decisions, to handle their financial affairs to the extent they have that many financial affairs. You're allowed, you're not really barred by a whole lot of privacy rules as far as getting information, because you're their parent and they're under 18. But as soon as that child turns 18, in the state of Arkansas, the law says they're an adult. And you don't gradually lose that authority that you were used to having. You lose it when they blow out the candles at the birthday party. And so I knew that. I thought that was important. So I wanted to make sure that I had power of attorney documents in place so that if there was a medical emergency the very next day, I would have some piece of paper that my wife and I could pull out that we could step in and help. And although this is the first time I'd ever done power of attorney for an 18-year-old, apparently it caught on, and several of the parents of Jay's friends reached out to me to do the same thing for them. And so, it's very, very important. But I want you to understand what power of attorney is, and let me lead that into the conversation of guardianship. So power of attorney is simply a written document where one person gives authority to another person to be able to speak for them in the healthcare arena or in the business or financial side of things, or both. But it's something that a person signs. It's voluntarily given, and it can be taken away at any time. It does not sign away authority. My son wouldn't have signed it if it meant he can't make his own decisions. It just means I can help him with decisions, and he could take away that authority at any time. But another thing is, it only worked because he had legal capacity to sign documents. He didn't have any particular diagnosis or disability or anything like that, so he was able to sign these documents once he turned 18. But again, it's only going to allow me to help him or assist him. He could override my guidance at any point. So I think at a minimum, anybody who has a child who is about to turn 18 or has turned 18 and in their 20s should think about this. But for you guys that have special considerations, you need to also know the shortcomings of power of attorney, and I've already kind of touched on them. First, it can only be legally granted if the person has legal capacity to sign a legal document. Well, that's not going to be true for everybody in this room. Second, I can only help. Some of you guys, that might not be sufficient, because with power of attorney, he could override my help. So you also need to know about the legal concept of guardianship. Now, to be fair, I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's a little harder to get guardianship than power of attorney. You can't do it at the birthday party. It's a court process. It's something where you'd more than likely work with a lawyer to prepare a petition. You would attach medical evidence to that petition. The medical evidence has to show why guardianship is appropriate. You file it in court, and you're almost certainly going to have you are going to have at least one hearing in front of a judge. Now, the judges in Arkansas who are handling uncontested, low-stress guardianships like what we're talking about today, they're not going to scare you. Nobody wants to go into the courtroom. I understand. I'm a lawyer, and it's not my favorite thing to do either. But they're not going to give you a hard time. They're not going to make it a challenge. It's just a formality in most cases. But it is a legal process that is handled in court with a lawyer. But here's the thing. Your child doesn't have to have capacity to sign for guardianship. It's appointed by a court, right? So where some families couldn't even get a valid power of attorney because of the legal capacity to sign issue, you don't have to worry about that in guardianship. Perhaps more importantly, your child can't fire you as guardian. They may want to, they may think they can, but they can't do that because this is a court-appointed position, and the judge appointed you to that role. And so if there's a fear that your child might be a, particular target for fraud or scam or things like that, well, the guardianship's going to be a lot more protection than a power of attorney. If you fear that your child might want to fire you every day from power of attorney, well, you don't have to worry about that when you've gone the route of the guardianship. And so basically, the bottom line on this topic is, I think that every parent needs to think about having some form of ability to speak for, look out for, manage, or assist in the management of affairs for their child once they turn 18. If nothing else, you should at least explore the option of power of attorney to see if that's going to be a help to your family. But guardianship may be the better route. And just like with power of attorney, there's a financial power of attorney, there's a healthcare power of attorney. The same thing on the guardianship side. There's a guardian of the person, which is more healthcare related, and there's guardian of the estate. You're probably going to want to pursue both if you're going to the trouble of getting guardianship. But that's the big takeaway there, that in the short time we have, we can't talk about all the ins and outs of it. It's just planting that seed that I think it's important for everyone, to be aware of that issue and not be, out there without any kind of legal authority to speak for your child. One more topic that'll kind of carry over into the next thing I wanted to touch on in the little bit of time we have left is, if you are doing your own estate plan, writing a will, preparing a trust, it's a good idea to put in your estate plan who you would want to replace you as guardian for your child. If you're a guardian, you may wonder, can I put a secondary guardian on there? Well, not with the courts. They won't prospectively appoint a secondary guardian because you have to meet certain criteria and say, if I had appointed my brother as a secondary guardian, hey, if he's a convicted felon, whenever it's time for him to take over, he's not eligible. Well, how's the judge going to know that 5 years or 10 years in advance? So they won't put a backup guardian in your order because that person may not qualify when the time comes. But you can put your recommendation for guardianship in your estate plan, and you should, because the courts in Arkansas have been guided to say, well, they're going to give first priority to your nomination of a successor at the guardianship role if everything's fine, if there's no reason that person is not eligible to serve. So, be more proactive. Don't leave it up to, whoever's the loudest family member, at the time of your passing. Put that in your estate plan. So on the topic of estate planning, there's something else that you should think about. Well, you should all have your own power of attorney, just like your child should have a power of attorney or guardian. That's true. But on the topic of looking out for your kids, which is what you're here for, right? I want you guys to know about the concept of the special needs trust, okay? So throughout the day, I've seen your list of speakers. You're going to learn about all different resources that are available to you, and there's some government programs, there's some benefits that you can take advantage of. But if your child is going to be able to take advantage of a certain benefit that might be means tested, that means they're really not allowed to have a lot of income or assets if they're going to qualify for that benefit. Well, that may be no problem right now. Maybe they don't have a lot of income or assets. But if you're not careful, if you die without a proper estate plan, then the laws of Arkansas are going to give assets to that child. Now, it might be a hassle if you didn't have an estate plan. There may be probate and all these things that you have to go through in order to do it, but they're going to inherit some assets from you, and that's going to kick them off those crucial benefits immediately. You don't want that to happen. Now, some families will oversimplify it and think, okay, then I need an estate plan that disinherits my child so they don't get anything from me. Well, I guess that's one way to protect those government benefits, but I doubt that's what you want to do. I think that you probably want to set up an estate plan where you can look out for your child while they still can benefit from those programs that they were utilizing. That's where the special needs trust comes up, or if you ever hear the phrase supplemental needs trust. Kind of two different names for the same thing and the same abbreviation, an SNT. So that's a way where you can actually leave assets for the benefit of a disabled child without those assets ever being considered theirs, without those assets having to be reported on a means test application for a government benefit. You have to be careful how you do it. I don't think this is one of those do-it-yourself things where you may pull a form off the internet, because if it's not set up just right, I've seen lots of families try to utilize a special needs trust or a supplemental needs trust, and they still get, their disabled loved one still gets kicked off of benefits because it either wasn't set up right or it wasn't used correctly. And sure, there are some restrictions to it. The special needs trust is not supposed to just distribute money to the disabled person, but it can be used to pay for things they may need or even kind of want. I have a client who has had a disabled son dealing with issues of autism who was a major, major sports fan. And this parent asked me, can this trust be set up to buy sports tickets and pay for travel to go to sporting events? Yes, of course it can. Yeah, can't just give him the money to do it. But the trustee can have guidance to pay for those sorts of things. It can't be used to pay for the very same things that the benefits are paying for, so it's not going to really pay for medical expenses if you're on like a Medicaid benefit. Not going to pay for housing expenses if you have a benefit paying for housing, but it can be used to pay for anything that the benefits aren't paying for, broadly speaking. And that's something that you as parents or grandparents would incorporate into your own estate plan. And that's, again, I joked earlier, but that is probably 2 hours of a law school course to talk about special needs trusts. I don't mean to convey to you that I've shared everything you ever need to know about it, except that it's just you guys need a plan. Not to tag on to the name of the book, that was a little bit broad. Everybody needs a plan, right? You guys need a plan, but your plan may be a little more sophisticated than most. Even some families come see me and say, I don't have enough assets to worry about a trust. Well, $10,000 going to a disabled child could be a major tragedy in the benefits they're going to lose. There's not really a cutoff for how much you might have in that situation. So, I want you to be aware of how important either power of attorney or guardianship is, so you can look out for your child while you're living, while you're around to do it. And then I want you to know how important your own estate plan is and some sophistication inside of your estate plan so you can look out for your child when you're no longer around. And you'll name your own trustee. You'll lay out the way that you want that trust to benefit them, and we can do it in a way that it doesn't kick them off of their benefits. So that's really, in 20 minutes, what I had hoped to convey. you tell me when I need to get off the stage because I can answer some questions if there's a little bit of time. And if there's no time for me to do it on the stage, I don't have to leave right away. I'll kind of wander around in the back and, have some brochures and cards. And that way you can individually ask questions and we can carry on with the program. So that's it. Thanks for letting me come.
So if you want one of Mr. Elrod's books, I'm going to order several and send me an email to the contact at AR Down Syndrome, and we'll mail one out to you for free. So, all right. You ready to introduce the next person?
And while she's setting up, I'm going to introduce Ms. Reese Parton, is a licensed occupational therapist who serves as Access's Director of Waiver Services. Reese has been part of the Access team since 2016. She spent 4 years working with clients at Access Academy before moving over to the Access Early Childhood team for 2 years. She transitioned into Access's CES Medicaid Waiver and Community Integration Program in April of 2023, where she supervises referrals, admissions, and ensures the provision of quality waiver services. Reese's favorite part of working at Access is being involved with making a difference in families' lives. Reese loves providing families with opportunities and experiences to promote inclusion and independence throughout their communities. Access's waiver program has made a huge impact within our community, and she is proud to be a part of their growth and success. Reese holds a Master's of Science degree with an emphasis on occupational therapy from the University of Central Arkansas. When she is not serving the Access mission, Reese enjoys hiking, camping, fishing, lake activities, and all things outdoors with her husband and 3 children. She volunteers at her local church, her kids' schools, and other nonprofit organizations whenever possible. She also loves live music, traveling, and vacationing at the beach. Reese Parton.
Gonna have Mike help. I'm not as tall. Or I can hold it. That works.
You're okay there?
Yeah, we could do that. Okay, so I have been asked to speak about CES Medicaid waiver. Not a lot of families know about this, and it's a huge resource that can be provided for all individuals throughout Arkansas. So CES waiver, it's also known as Community Employment Support Waiver. It can also be known as just DDS waiver or Medicaid waiver or just simply waiver. But the whole goal of the program is to be able to help individuals with disabilities to live as independently as possible within their home, whether that's like caring for the child, it may be purchasing equipment for them, it may be just giving the family a break, providing respite coordination, and then also if the individual is looking for employment, it can help. You can have an individual help them with resume writing, locating a job, practicing for interviews, just that whole job searching functionality, and then also like on-the-job training as well. So whenever they do find a job, helping them coach while on the job, and then as well as additional training that they may need for that particular position that they're withholding. But the whole goal of the program is to be able to keep these individuals within their home environment, keep them out of the institutionalized setting, keep them home with their family, their friends, or even live independently, like within an apartment or something like that with just additional help provided. We want to just keep these individuals at home as long as possible. Whenever you apply for the CES Medicaid waiver program, after you initially apply, you're going to be provided what's called a pass, so it's kind of like an insurance company. There are currently 4 passes that are available: Arkansas Total Care, Empower, Summit, and Care Source. Whenever you first apply and kind of get through all that application process, you're going to randomly be provided a pass. If you are not happy with that, you can change, and I advise to do that within the first 90 days if at all possible. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until the yearly, just like with all insurances, you'll have to wait until that yearly fall review where you can switch and change, and then it'll be effective that January 1st. But that's always an option if for whatever reason you're not happy with the current pass/insurance provider that you have. So CES Medicaid waiver, it's very different from the traditional Medicaid program. Like I said, it's often referred to as like waiver or DDS services or community-based services. But the CES Medicaid waiver program covers a lot more than your traditional Medicaid program. Whereas your Medicaid program would just be covering mostly health care and non-emergency, transportation services. Your CES Medicaid program is going to provide a lot additional services in addition to your traditional Medicaid program will provide. Some of those services, or actually I skipped ahead. So to be able to qualify, it's available for all individuals with intellectual disabilities. There are 6 primary diagnoses that they can have that would kind of allow them to be apply. So that's going to be Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, autism, spina bifida, seizure disorders, and then intellectual disorders. This isn't necessarily at a one-shop, compass. If your child has a genetic or disorder or any type of disorder that may, have that additional intellectual disability component to it, they can qualify for the CES Medicaid program. It's not necessarily just for those six specific diagnoses. What we really stress on for individuals is to not wait. It used to be a 10-year wait list, back in 2020. This year alone, I've had individuals come to me stating they were only on the wait list for 1 year, and then even another one just a couple of weeks ago stated they were only on the wait list for 3 years. I know that sounds like a long time, but when it used to be 10 years, they're really getting better and better about trying to get these individuals off the wait list and into the program ASAP. So we really stress, as soon as possible, as soon as you learn about the Medicaid waiver program, to go ahead and apply. You really don't want to wait until you need the services and then apply, and then you may have a few more years before you can become eligible. But even while you're on the wait list, you're still going to have options for services. A lot of pull-ups, chucks, gloves, wipes, like your DME supplies. If your child is medically fragile and you're going to have those tubes, feeding tubes, and all that kind of stuff, all of that can be covered. And I think a lot of things that, something that a lot of individuals don't know about is that you also receive personal care services while you're on the wait list, which is huge. So having an individual paid staff member come into your home and provide those personal care services. And then something I personally just recently learned about through another care coordinator is that there's also a $300 voucher that's available that you can apply for. It is geared more towards individuals a little bit lower income, but that $300 voucher is available every quarter, so you can get up to $1,200 a year to use towards respite services. So that could be paying a babysitter, paying grandma, using other respite coordination, respite services that are available throughout the state. So CES Waiver Services, of course, can provide respite coordination, so that's going to be your short-term service that's available to provide caregivers relief. Supportive employment is what I was talking about with having an individual help your child locate a job, that job placement, job coaching, job training. And then supportive living services is a big service that's utilized within the program, that's having paid staff come into your home or come into their home to help reach goals that they may be working on to try to gain that independence as much as possible. Medical supplies are also covered. Your care coordinator will help you with this. They can order your vitamins, anything that you're purchasing just off the rack And then also medication, like prescription drugs, nutritional supplements like Boost, that sort of thing they can provide. Pretty much all of that, all the medical stuff they'll be able to cover under the Medicaid program. Adaptive equipment is another big one that we get a lot of requests on. So like equipment such as the other day we had someone with a seizure disorder, and it was a new diagnosis for them, and they were it's an 8-year-old child, so they wanted a seizure monitoring system. I think it ended up being like a $1,200 system that we were able to get covered. So every time he had a seizure, all of that medical data was automatically sent to his doctor so they can review and kind of monitor the medications and maybe if they need to make changes, that sort of thing. But any type of equipment that his or your child's therapist may recommend, that sort of thing, we can always submit through the Medicaid waiver program for them to cover. And then, of course, community transition services. So if they're moving from one facility to another, or even moving homes from, north with one apartment complex to another. A prime example was a couple years ago when we had the tornado that came through Little Rock, and their apartment was hit pretty badly. So the waiver program paid for the moving costs to move him to another apartment complex, as well as all those initial costs, deposit, all that kind of stuff to kind of get him going back into a different apartment complex. Consultation services, so all your therapeutic services. If a client is having behavior issues and they need behavior, maybe the direct support professionals that work with them, the staff that works with them need additional support on how to deal with the behaviors that they may be having, anything like that, or if they just need therapy, that sort of things, waiver will cover for that. Environmental modifications is another huge one that a lot of individuals will seek out help for. Wheelchair ramps, getting their doors widened, fence installations. If they have a swimming pool out back, we've got to keep them safe and make sure that the pool area is safe. Bathroom modifications is also a big one. Most homes have the traditional tub shower combo, and that's not necessarily safe for the majority of our population. So we do a lot of modifications where we have a contractor come out to their home, remove that tub shower combo and just put a regular walk-in shower, that sort of thing, just to kind of help keep the bathroom as safe as possible for them. And then any additional support that they may have, we work very closely, well, I'm sure all CES waiver providers work very closely with the care coordinator as well as the families to see if there's any caregiver training that needs to be done, if we need a behavior plan, if the family is seeking guardianship, we can kind of help with that. The waiver program will pay for that guardianship, those legal fees that are in those guardianship process, or if somebody's adopting a child with a disability that's already in the waiver program, getting those legal fees covered. And then, so how to apply, you can Google CES Medicaid waiver and it'll pull up the DDS website, and about halfway down there is an online link where you can apply. There is also the phone number for DHS DD services that you can call and just have everything done online, done over the phone. A specialist will help you step-by-step process. So don't feel like you're gonna forget a step. They will make sure to let you know if there's any documentation missing, that sort of thing. And then once you officially apply, then you'll have someone assigned to you and to help you with like all the paperwork process that's needed. It is unfortunately pretty hefty, but I feel like that's with everything Medicaid related. It's a process, but once you get in, then it's literally just kind of a waiting game until you get off the wait list. But at least while you're on the wait list, you still have access to other services in the meantime, which is helpful. And then, so of course, access, yes, ma'am. Oh, that is a good Deanna question. Miss Deanna? Or someone with community connections? Okay, yes, okay. Yes, it will be available. No problem. Access Group is, we have several different programs. I'm over the waiver program, and so we do provide, of course, CES Medicaid Waiver Services. We provide all the services such as supportive living, having that paid staff there for you. Another big thing that I think changed probably about 2 years ago, I believe, is where Medicaid is now allowing guardians to be paid staff, because we know that, I mean, a lot of families, I mean, it takes two income to run a household, and if a mother or father has to quit their job to care for their special needs child, that's going to provide huge hardship on the family. So being able to hire, that's you know, mother or father, or sometimes we even have aunts, uncles, grandparents come on board to kind of to help provide care for that individual. Even if they still go to school, you know, they can provide care for that individual after school until the parents come home. That's really been a huge help, especially in these last couple of years. But just, you know, providing that safety, of course, but also the CES Medicaid Waiver Program they really want you to work on goals, such any goals of independence, whether it's self-care, your ADLs, IADLs, so like your cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, all of that, all those skills that you're going to need for daily life. Those are kind of like the goals that we incorporate into the plan that your staff should be working on daily with them, or maybe not even necessarily daily if you want a part-time staff. Access also provides consultation services. We do have, of course, we provide therapy, OT, PT, speech. We also have a licensed psychologist on staff and several social workers on staff that can provide those like psych evals that you'll have to have done every so often, the IQ, adaptive testing, that sort of thing. And then also if there is a behavior concern or something that we need to work through, we do work very well with our psychologists and social workers on staff to kind of figure out how we can navigate through those issues. Access also provides home modification requests. We have a few contractors that we kind of work through where they can go to your home and kind of look to see what changes you might need, and then they provide the bids to us so that we can submit that request over to the PASS, so whatever insurance company they're with. I kind of spoke that really quickly. I haven't spoken to a group this big before, so I'm a little nervous. But does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you know, for a caregiver, the respite care, around how many hours a week that is they provide?
Yeah. 40 would be a maximum, and whenever you speak of respite care, it's supposed to be temporary. So if it's going to be a regular thing, you kind of want to lump that under supportive living. But if it's going to be a temporary thing, like say you're going to, we try to talk to see if, like, do they go on yearly vacations and they're going to be gone for a week? Or some families even do like 1 weekend a month of respite care. So an individual or, you know, a family friend or somebody can take that child, you know, and just kind of provide that respite care for the weekend. And just have it be a regular thing, but it's only like a 1 weekend, you know, a month kind of thing. We tried to either do like a 1 weekend a month thing. We haven't had any problems with getting that approved. And we've also done like just 40 hours a week for 1 or 2 weeks throughout the year. We haven't had any problems with getting that approved. So I'm not necessarily sure if there's a max per se, but every pass is also different too. So it depends on which pass you're with on what their requirements are. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, they won't allow that while you're on the wait list. You do have to officially be off the wait list to get home modifications, but you can literally start working on that on the next day as soon as you get approved. Yeah. Yes, sir. Oh, no. I am unable to answer that one. I do not know. What I would recommend, if you would like to talk to me afterwards, we can try to work through and find out maybe why you were denied before and see if we can find a workaround on that one. You may not necessarily want to divulge that information in public. Yes?
Okay, the support employment,
Mm-hmm.
can you just elaborate a little bit
Yeah.
on that tangible? I mean, I know you said like training and interview skills, but as far
Yeah.
as taking an individual with a disability that's on waiver,
Mm-hmm.
like going into the restaurant with them and helping them, or just helping
Yeah.
them get access to an interview to be considered?
Yeah. So start to finish, first thing we would do is look for an individual that has, that type of experience for sure. And then we kind of do like a meet and greet. So you meet the individual, you give us the thumbs up. Yes, we want to hire that person. So we hire that person, and then we talk with the three of you guys of, okay, what are some things that they like? What are they interested in? Do we have any connections with other business owners, throughout wherever they live? And then what kind of jobs might be available at the time or they might be interested in, and then just kind of looking in that aspect of it. And then, yes, they would start with the very beginning. We're going to do some resume writing. We're going to hone down on what skills we have. And then we're going to look to see, interview processes can be kind of challenging for our individuals, unfortunately, but practicing, at least the traditional skills so they can get comfortable with that. And then working with them on, once we find a job, we apply, we can go in with them if they'd like. Some employers don't want the DSP there, some employers do, so we kind of have to play that one by ear. But once we get through that interview process, let them know, hey, this individual can follow with them, so you don't feel like you have to do all the training all by themselves. That employer doesn't feel like they're just kind of left, hanging. Let them know that we are going to provide that additional staff, and that really, really helps. Once they know that, they're usually more on board with hiring that individual, and then letting them know that that staff member is going to be there throughout the process. And then they work very closely with the manager as well. So is there any skills that we need to kind of hone down on a little bit more, or, are we doing good? And then obviously, if the DSP always has questions, they're really good about coming back to us for some feedback and try to work through issues if something comes up. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the waiver and TEFRA? And then is there a income limit on the waiver?
So what I was told is that waiver actually covers everything that TEFRA does. So you would lose TEFRA once you fully get onto Medicaid waiver. So it will take over. Yeah, take some place of it, yes. I'm sorry? No, not income based. I think I'm running out of time. But I will be available after this to answer any additional questions if you guys want to find me. Yeah. No problem.
Well, it turns out that this computer doesn't have an HDMI port on it. Daniel, do you have an adapter we can bum? Sorry. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Ms. Cater while we're waiting to get our technical issues together. Ms. Cater is the Social Security Administration Public Affairs Specialist. Tanya has been employed by Social Security since 2004. She served as a claims specialist from 2004 to 2012. Then she was promoted to technical expert in 2012 and continued in that position until December 2014. In January of 2015, she then changed positions to public affairs specialist and continues in that role. And once we get slides together, she's going to talk to us today about SSI. You just have to, if you just arrow here to change them. Oh. Can you see the slides, Daniel? They don't seem to be syncing. Now they are. Okay.
All right. Look, I'm gonna stand here, but I'm loud usually anyways without one, so if I get too loud, just motion for me to get quiet. Okay, so I'm gonna go over some SSI information. It's just gonna be some very, very basic information. If you have additional questions, feel free to get with me. This should be available later if you need it. One of the biggest things that people often ask us is the difference between SSI for adults and for children. There is a difference. The definition for an adult, and this is anyone 18 or over that's applying for SSI, it's going to be a medical condition or combination of impairments preventing substantial work for at least 12 months or expected to result in death. The determination also looks at age, education, and work experience. So this is the definition that you're looking at for an adult. Now here's the difference with a child. It's a physical or mental condition or combination of impairments that result in marked and severe functional limitations, and the condition is expected to last at least 1 year or result in death. So as you can see, it doesn't look at work, it doesn't look at other factors, it's just looking to see if it's a marked impairment or resulting in death, which is resulting in death is in both definitions. But the difference is it's a combination of impairments that result in marked and severe. Basically, when it's a child, they're looking at other children their age to see if they're able to do the same thing another 5-year-old would do, or do they have more problems? Are they able to do the same thing a 15-year-old would do, or is it considered a different type of standard for those children? So that's the biggest difference. So you do see a lot of children get on SSI, and then when they turn 18 and they do a review, at that point, then they are removed from SSI. And the reason is because now they no longer meet the age 18 determination. A lot of people just stop at that point, but I do encourage people, if for some reason you have a child that was on as a child, turn 18, and then they're removed, then what you want to do is file an appeal or start a new application, because sometimes maybe they missed something, and people often just get frustrated and stop at that point. What is SSI? It's monthly payments to people with low income and limited resources who are blind, disabled, or 65 or older. So what that means, low income, low resources, this is where you see also where sometimes you have someone that couldn't receive as a child because parents' income and resources counted, but now that they're 18, that magic birthday has happened where they blew the candles out, they turned 18, and so now they're able to receive because the parents' income resources no longer count. We miss a lot of people because they don't realize once they turn 18, they need to contact us to file, because in their mind, they're still in my household, we still make the same thing, so they're not going to receive benefits. So they just don't even bother to apply. But that's not how that works. It doesn't matter if they're still in your household. As long as they're paying their portion of the bills, once they're approved, they can receive the full SSI amount. So what do we count? When it's for a child, we count spouses or parents. If it's a child, they're going to count the parents. If they're married, they count a spouse. Now, but the spouse, they have to be married and lived in the same household. So if you're married and you've been separated or you're no longer living in the same household, then we don't count the spouse. Living arrangements can affect the benefits. So determining, do you live in the household with other family members? Do you live in an institution? Do you have an apartment where you're sharing it with friends? So all of those things determine how much you could receive from SSI. Every living arrangement changes the amount you can receive. So it's important to make sure you let us know who all is living in the household with you. So what we do not count, we do not count the first $20 of any type of income that's received. So it doesn't matter what you're receiving. If the first $20 right off the bat, we say we're not going to count that. Then if you're actually working and earning wages, we take off $65. So if you're working for an employer, the first thing we're going to do is subtract $85 to determine what we're going to pay someone from SSI so they can have other income coming in. We do not count things such as food stamps, shelter received from nonprofit or most energy assistance, And just like he had talked about earlier about making sure that certain assets are put in, you can have ABLE accounts. ABLE accounts are set up to allow people that are disabled, their family, friends, to put money into an account that does not affect their SSI. So there is also, on top of the trust that he's talking about, you can also look and investigate the ABLE accounts to make sure you're able to put back the most amount that you can, because once you're gone, they are going to be living on what you have saved or what they're receiving from SSI. And right now, the SSI amount is $943 a month, which makes it really hard to live off of that. So it's nice to have those other resources set aside if you can have those. So what are the resource limits? For an adult, you can have $2,000 for an individual. So if you're just living by yourself, taking care of yourself, you're not married, you're looking at $2,000. If you're married, as a couple, you can have $3,000, and that's your assets. That's everything you own. Now, if you have houses and vehicles, some of those are exceptions, and they would be taken out of that computation, but just the asset that you own. So if you have children, they can have $4,000 worth of assets in the household if they're living with one, $5,000 if they're living with two, and $2,000 if they're living with anyone other than their parent. Okay, so there is a lot of determinations on what you can and can't have depending on the household you live in, which is why it's always important to let someone know at the Social Security office what you have or what you're planning to buy or purchase to make sure it's not going to affect a child. SSI, we count bank accounts. Like I said, cars, we're only counting the second car. Stocks and bonds, 401ks, liquid assets, and property other than where you live. This is important because just like he was talking about, if someone dies and they left you a house, but you don't live in that house, you live in an apartment uptown because it's better for what your situation is. If that house is paid for, even though that's the only house that you own, it now counts against you because you don't live in that house. You live in the apartment. So it's important to understand those type of rules and regulations when it comes to SSI, because even if it's a spot of land, it's a lot. There's that's going to count against you. Every resource that you have that comes up under your name is going to start counting. So please be mindful of that when you leave things to people or if someone's going to leave something to you. I tell people too, one of the biggest things that happen with SSI is we actually check bank records. Our systems run against financial institutions. If your name is on an account, it is now yours. So if half of it, if there's $10,000 in there, and we're going to say 5,000 yours if you're on there with someone else. Because a lot of people will add a second person on the account. So if something were to happen, but now as far as we're concerned, that is your money because you have access to it. Now, it's different as adding pay on death. That's different than you actually having access to the money. So please be mindful of that when you have someone that wants to add you to an account of any type. We don't count the home you live in, first car, burial plots, and if you set certain assets aside for burial, then we would get additional documentation to determine if it's going to count against you or not. So just be mindful if you set it aside in an account for a burial, it could count against you. Medicaid coverage. People who qualify for SSI qualify for Medicaid. The local medical assistance office will contact you for further information if they need that for the Medicaid. But normally it just, once we're approved, we get everything processed through our systems and the Medicaid coverage will start. If for some reason it doesn't start automatically, you just need to contact them. Sometimes it's a systems error. One system didn't read against the other. The other important thing to remember about Medicaid is not federal. Medicaid is actually state. So when you move from state to state, Medicaid coverage doesn't just roll on over to the next state you go to. So please be mindful when you're moving to make sure you let the local Social Security office know if you're receiving SSI so we can update the address. And then the quicker you contact the local Medicaid office there, the better it's going to be for you. Because if you're just waiting on our system to interact with their system and everybody then you may be without Medicaid coverage. Please, please, please make sure you're contacting everyone when you move. Everyone always wants to know how you apply for benefits. Online is always a preferred, especially if you're 18 or over. But if you're a child, you can at least start the medical part online. These are some of the things that they're going to ask you when you get ready to apply for SSI. Same thing that they're usually going to ask if you apply for just regular Social Security benefits as well. They're going to ask for Social Security numbers, W-2s or employment information, military records, direct deposit information. Main thing, information about doctors, hospitals, clinics, and medical tests. We need to know all of that. The more medical evidence you have, the better your chances are being approved. Name of current medications and information about the last 5 jobs that someone's worked. And like I said, the more information you can give us, the better. Of course, if we get medical records, usually your medication's going to be listed, your tests are going to be listed. But it just kind of helps them if they know that you had a certain test. When they look through your medical evidence, they're looking for that test in your medical, okay? That's the reason we ask for it. That's the reason I also say a lot of times it's better to do it online, because if you're not feeling rushed, a lot of times you can remember, maybe you'll type in one thing and be like, oh yeah, I forgot I went to this doctor. Or, oh, I forgot I was diagnosed with this. The more conditions you list as well, the better off you are. So even if you know you're probably not going to be approved if you have acid reflux. If you have acid reflux and then you have high blood pressure and if you start listing the more conditions you have, the more likely you are to be approved. It's the same thing with children. So maybe they were diagnosed with something at school at one point in time and you hadn't really talked about it, thought about it again. If it's in their records, then you can list that as a condition they were diagnosed with, okay? So please list as much information as you can when you do the application. If you're going to apply for SSI, and I think they're going to have slides, right? Everyone's going to have this. So that way you can go directly to these sites to apply for benefits for SSI. The main thing I always tell everyone is just to make sure when you go to Social Security sites, you look for .gov at the end to make sure you're not going through third-party sites. And that's with any government agency. Always look for the .gov at the end, because you do not want to go in there, fill out all this stuff, and then find out you're filling it out through a third party that's going to charge you $7,000. So please be mindful, anything Social Security related, you make sure you're going to .gov. Once you get to our website, it's going to hit apply for disability, and then it's going to carry you down the path you need to go, whether you're an adult or a child. Please, 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 the .gov is important. I've had people contact me and say, I paid $50 for my Social Security card, where's it at? Well, we don't charge for a Social Security card, so now you've given them $50 and your credit card information. So same thing with applications when you file for us. We don't ask you to sign anything but the application. We don't ask you to sign to pay us. It usually takes about 90 to 120 days to get a decision, depending on how quickly you can get the medical records. If you don't mind, if you have access to them, go ahead and get them, submit them. It makes it easier for us. But if you don't have them or they're going to charge you, do not pay the $200 or $300 that sometimes these offices ask for medical records, because we can get those for you. And one of the main things people always ask about is once they're receiving, can I work? Can my child work? Even if you have other people in the household, if you're the one you're getting it for your child, you can work. There are special rules. And you always need to contact us to let us know so we can let you know what you can and cannot do. Like I told you earlier, there's the first amounts that were taken off the top, the 20 and the 65. So those come off the top of the earnings, whether it's for you, for the child, doesn't matter. This is what I kind of wanted to show you. You're going to say that someone is going to earn $1,201 gross for a month. We take out that first $20, so it leaves $1,181. Then we take out the $65, so it leaves $1,116. Now we're going to divide that by 2, which leaves $558. So what does that equal? This is the $943 that SSI pays. We're going to take out the $558, and so you get a benefit of $385 from SSI, which means you're still getting an SSI check. You keep your Medicaid, and now instead of bringing home $943 for the month, they get to bring home $1,586. So that's the reason a lot of people work. It gives them that little bit of income. As long as you're receiving $1, you get to keep the Medicaid that's associated with the SSI. But even if you go over, there are special rules that also will let you, even if you don't receive an SSI check, to continue your Medicaid through SSI. So you actually do receive more money by working. All right, does anyone have any questions? I know I went through it really quickly to try to get y'all. It's a lot. I tell people when you go to work Social Security, you're in training for 3 years. So the main thing is to find that you have someone that your local office, find you a contact person, try to stay where you're in good communications with them. That way, if you have questions or concerns, they can help you. And the best advocate is you yourself. Social Security, everything I go online, everything they tell you, you can put that to our website and find the exact information. So if something doesn't sound correct to you, make sure you investigate. Ask someone else. Don't just always go with, okay, they're a federal employee, they told me I couldn't do this, and you just let it go. Please don't miss out on money for you or your child. All right.
Okay, our final speaker of the day is Ms. Chelsea Loy. She's going to be speaking on the category of housing options here in Arkansas. Ms. Loy serves as the Director of Community Living at Easter Seals, Arkansas, where she oversees the roommate housing and HUD programs, with a career spanning over 14 years in the field. Chelsea brings a wealth of experience and expertise to her role. Chelsea earned her bachelor's in psychology with a focus in child and family dynamics, followed by a Master's of Science in Clinical Mental Health. Throughout her extensive career, she's made significant contributions across various sectors, including nonprofit developmental disabilities providers, PASS providers, and dual population mobile crisis providers. In addition to her academic credentials, Chelsea has attained several professional certifications, including supported employment job coach and positive behavior plan development. She is also a certified START coordinator with a specialization in the dual population, certified by the University of New Hampshire. Chelsea's passion for the field of intellectual and developmental disabilities drives her work at Easter Seals, Arkansas. Her dedication to improving the lives of individuals with IDD is evident in her commitment to innovative programs and services that promote independence and community integration. Chelsea continues to make a meaningful impact, championing the needs and rights of those she serves. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Loy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. So I am starting this. Is it connected? I hope. Yeah, possibly. Thanks. No, it's fine. That's okay. I can go ahead and get started without them until we get it on the screen. So, yes, I'm with Easter Seals, and our mission is to encourage and empower individuals to live, learn, and work and play within their community. So we try to do that within every capacity and program that we serve them in. So the first slide is going to go into The housing option is called ICFs, or they're otherwise known as intermediate care facilities. So they are, there's a few that are all over the state. However, the purpose of them is to provide services for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. There are 4 that work with minors, and it can be up to 18 years of age or 21 years of age. There's a few that are up to 21 and under. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So there are 2 types of ICFs. There's a small bed, and that has about 16 beds or less. Those are considered small setting ICFs. And then there's a large ICF setting. There are, as I said, that there were 4. Now the purpose is that they go over their goals. It's more of the way that the structured environment, it's a little bit more restrictive in their day-to-day of what that looks like for them and what they're able to go and do. So there are, especially in the ICFs like Mill Creek and Pediatric Facility, they really focus on that individual's education as what you would see in the public or the private school system. There is a contact information on here that I'm sure can be available to you guys to reach out to them for openings, but I do want to also note that with it being intermediate care facilities, the purpose of that is really to be kind of a temporary, not a long term, in order for them to reach their goals. So the next one that we're going to look at is group homes. So they also, very similar, do the same thing as ICFs. They work with the individual on their goals and objectives. It's not as restrictive, I guess, in their environment as like an ICF setting would be. So they are able to go and do things out in the community. It's, however, a decision made as a group to go and do those things together. So there are a few in the state of Arkansas. On the slides, we have listed Civitan, Pathfinder, and youth homes in Little Rock. They really focus on Medicare, counseling, not Medicare, medical services, counseling, and life skills training. Still working. All right. So the next one that I'll briefly touch on as well is our HUD housing. And what that is housing and urban development. So Easter Seals, we have 4 properties of HUD housing, and it services individuals with intellectual and physical disabilities. And they think it's not going to work. Okay, well, I would love to show you all our beautiful videos, but that's okay. So the requirement for our HUD housing is they have to have a letter from their primary care physician that shows proof that they have a disability. They have to at least be 18 years of age or older to be able to participate in those services. So like I mentioned, we have 4 HUD complexes, and then we have a total of 59 units. 3 of those are located off of Charlotte Drive, and 1 is located off of Armistead Village. There is a waiting list for those services, so it depends. It can be anywhere from 6 months to a year that you stay on the waiting list. But yeah, it's more of independent living, so they're able to go out in the community. Unlike, that you would see in a group home or an ICF setting, they have that leisure to leave their house if they choose to do so. We also service individuals that receive waiver services in our HUD housing, so that's an option too. So if they do need staff in the home to work with them, they're able to do so in that type of setting as well. So next was actually a video that was going to go into our roommate housing program at Easter Seals. And the video really shows you of some of the individuals that have moved into this independent living setting. A lot of times the families, they'll come to us and they'll say, I don't know if my child can necessarily participate in the program because it's labeled an independent setting. I do like to encourage the families, roommate housing is a one-size-fits-all for everyone. It's just the way that we render services that looks different for each of them. So it depends on those tools that we're able to give them. Like I tell them all the time, you can't just bake a cake without flour and eggs. You've got to have those tools and resources to be able to do so. So in roommate housing, which is another option, is where we really encourage those individuals to grow in those opportunities to live independent. So it is another type of housing opportunity, and right now we're kind of, really mainly stationary in West Little Rock. However, roommate housing can grow in any direction. So the purpose behind it is to live where you want to and who you want to live with. We like to give that choice and that option for the individuals. And so although we're stationed in West Little Rock, if you have the option that you want to, it doesn't necessarily have to be an apartment complex either. Because I know right now in West Little Rock we have apartment complex locations. And then we're looking in North Little Rock and Northwest Arkansas. But if you're interested in a home, we can absolutely grow in that direction as well. The primary focus of the process in finding a roommate, because you are probably wondering, how do you do that? We have a matching survey and process that's very in-depth that we go into detail on. They take this survey where it's based off of their likes and their dislikes as they go through it. Also, whenever you sign up, you can sign up through your social media platform. So it extracts that information of things that you might have checked through your social media to pair them together. So it's very detailed. We don't only look at the surveys, but we go into the option of pairing them together at our social events and meeting them in person and ensuring that it's going to be a good match. The setting structure of the staffing, like I mentioned earlier, of it being customized to the individual. So the services are specific to their needs. If someone requires 24/7, and they truly do, absolutely, it can be established. But there are situations where the individual might need limited staff. And so that's where we implement our partnership with smart technology into the home. So for example, like I mentioned, of providing them with the right tools and resources to really be successful. If they have challenges with remembering their keys or forgetting to lock the door, we have a system where we install, it's called a smart lock, where they can utilize just their thumbprint. So if it's difficult for them to remember and access with the code, because there's also an option to do a 4-digit code, they're able to utilize their thumbprint to get into the house. And then it automatically locks on its own whenever they're in. So that's where, whenever I talk about of making it specific and accessible to the individuals, it's about creating opportunities for them to live independently and do this. So, for your loved one, you might have the thoughts of, this might not be a possibility for them, but what if it could? What if it absolutely could be a possibility? Have they ever been given the opportunity to make that a possibility for them? That's really where I have a lot of those conversations in the early stages with the family. So, if you're looking at housing options, if your loved one or yourself respond well to, those structured environments, absolutely explore all your options. Explore what's best for your loved one. With roommate housing, I love the fact that it is so customizable to the individual and their needs. There's another video that I would love to share, and it shows really how we implement our technology with them exploring those options. But yeah, okay. So I'm going to leave it open for any questions that y'all might have. Questions regarding housing, anything in particular? Yes, ma'am. For the HUD housing, so typically when they move in, I'm speaking on behalf of our properties at Easter Seals, they don't usually move out of the HUD housing. They've been very successful in that environment, so that's usually the wait on the wait list, but it can be anywhere from 6 months to a year. If they have properties of their own. So there's a thing called sponsor or host homes that can be accessible through the state entities. I know that there's levels of DCFS that have offered that service. Yes, ma'am. It's a good question. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. So we have, it's another tool that we use in roommate housing. The individuals have screens in their bedrooms that are customized to their specific needs, so their daily schedule, their medication, activities that they have planned for that day. And then there's also screens that are located in the living room, and so the roommates typically share that space. Absolutely. The families have access to their schedule for the day, at what staff is working with them, what they're doing. You can text them from these screens. We can FaceTime them from there. It's a pretty cool tool. They've been really savvy with them, and we've provided a pretty in-depth educational platform with the families and the individuals prior to getting them installed. But yeah, it's been a great tool. We have it at our table out there if anybody would like to come look at it, and we can walk through it with each of you. Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. All right, thank you.
Gosh, and we almost got through without technological difficulties, and I was very proud of ourselves, but, you know. Thank you guys for being here, and we wanted to end in time on purpose, because if you did not get a chance to go around to the vendor resource fair, like I said at the beginning, they are awesome, awesome resources. They will be here till 12, and if you have kids or young adults in the teen or the young adult room, the OT department from the University of Central Arkansas and the Fellowship Bible Church special needs ministry staff have said that they are just fine until noon. And I believe a couple of our speakers have stuck around, so if you had questions, you can go ask them. But as James said, if you didn't hear him on the microphone, and yes, we had him announcing, because that voice like lulls me maybe to sleep, otherwise to focus on the speakers. It was amazing. We will send out the video slides and links to the presenters afterward if you registered. If by any chance you missed registering for the conference, I think that if you didn't, you did it. There's a QR code on the flyer at the check-in table. If you register, we'll have your email address and we will send that out. I stepped out because I will say a great, amazing community partner who is very supportive of individuals with special needs is Andy's Frozen Custard. And so Andy's is here and has free custard for you to grab on your way out, because you do a lot as a caregiver of an individual with special needs. And so for you or your kids, if they're here, that is there when you walk out. But otherwise, please stick around for the resource fair. Please visit with the speakers. And we have 4 door prizes, maybe a 5th. Dan's coming in with one more. I do want to thank everybody who had a hand in putting on the workshop. I was very hands-off, but Anna Valenzuela with Community Connections, Deanne Hunt, I know the Arkansas Down Syndrome Association, Brittany Richardson and Access Schools. We love collaborating, and it takes a whole community of individuals working together to make things happen. So with no further ado, I'm going to draw my favorite thing. We just want prizes at everything. Prizes are my most favorite. Okay, so we have $50 Amazon gift cards provided by Arkansas Down Syndrome Association and Community Connection. So 4 people are going to get, yes, and let everybody know Lynn can speak too. So our first one is Thomas and Chanda. Thomas and Chanda, are you here? Must be present to win. Some people or parents are out walking the resource fair too. Thomas and Chanda, do you know them? Okay, well, we're not going to check. Here we go. Number 2. Rosa. Rosa, you here? Ah, yes, very good. Okay. Another $50 Amazon gift card going to, fell out of my hand, Stacy Woodson. Stacy? Okay, perfect. And what do you think that is? 90? 90? Or close, last name Chabel? What is the name? How did I not read your name? There we go. Nite. Sorry, it's me, not you. Okay, there we go. On that. And then one more of these is going to Dina Del Solio. Dina. Saw her earlier. Are you still in here, Dina? She's not in here. I'm going to draw again. Dina, okay. Ready? Marcia Schmidt. Marcia still in here? Yay, okay. Yes, there we go. Perfect. Okay. There's that. And then, Lynn, do you want to introduce yourself and share this? You do this and share
So my name is Lynn McAllister. I'm the Arkansas Disability Coalition Executive Director, and we are just happy to be here. We basically provide supports to families to access and navigate the health system. So, and all of our staff everybody that works for us is a parent of a child with chronic health care needs. So we kind of know where you're coming from and what you might be experiencing. So we're just happy to be part of this group, and thank y'all for being here. And we have a $30 Walmart gift card to give away today. I don't have my glasses.
Yes, just kidding. I just put everybody's name back in.
Oh, you did?
She didn't know.
Oh, we could do this forever, couldn't we?
This is funny.
Heather Terry.
Heather,
Oh,
yay,
good.
Heather.
Yay.
Okay.
All right.
Amazing. All right, again, check your emails for presenter slides and video links. Please come visit if you have any questions of us, and we so appreciate you being here. Oh, yes. Go give that pitch. There you go.
Please take your surveys out of your yellow bags and fill them out, and you can leave them at the registration desk or hand them to one of us, but we really want the feedback to know what we can do to help. I just thank everybody that's been here today, and Fellowship Church, and Amy Moore we've been working with, all the volunteers, and our speakers. I hope you guys learned a lot, and we'll come back to our next event. Thank you for being here.